good afternoon. I hope you're doing very well today. It is a sunny and seasonably warm day here in Southwest Missouri. I am enjoying myself immensely. Just looking out the window and seeing the sunshine is wonderful. In a few minutes, hopefully, if everything goes well, I will be joined by Rebekah Piatt, who is a colleague in Orlando, Florida, the most magical city in the world. And we're going to talk a little bit about what she's up to, why you should be following her, and get some information on how particularly voice teachers can learn from her about getting clients prepared for rock theater shows like American Idiot and Rent. We're going to talk a little bit about her experience as far as those shows are concerned. In fact, let me grab my notes so that when she pops on, hopefully in just a minute, I'll be prepared, because I actually did prepare for today so I could ask her exactly what we wanted to know. Oh, here we go. I think she's here. Yes. So just a minute, she should pop up, hopefully, if everything goes well. There she is. Hi, Rebekah.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me
Okay.
okay?
Yes, I've never done an Instagram live before, so
Oh, wow. We're
fun
all
time.
learning new things today.
I know.
I love your glasses, all the colors in them. I mean, it's so on brand for you. Anyway, you're a very colorful person, but they're adorable.
Thank you. It was one of those things, you know how like Facebook marketing gets you sometimes? And it was
Mhm.
during Pride Month or something, and I had looked at one pair of rainbow glasses, and then all of a sudden all the things were rainbow glasses, and I was like, okay, fine.
I know. I search for the most random things sometimes, just because, I tend to be um well, input learner is, two of my, so like I think I throw off the algorithm every once in a while, because I'll just start, like, for whatever reason, I'll search about sea turtles because why not? They're cool. And
Yes.
then all of a sudden, yeah. So I'm not sure that Facebook ever has me quite figured out.
No, me either.
So, I want to make really good use of your time. So, you're in Florida, right? So,
hmm
tell me a little bit about your studio, your clients, the things that you've got going on right now that we should be excited about with you.
So I run a multi-teacher studio called A Noteworthy Music Studio because I'm all about puns and fun words. And we are in Winter Park, Florida, which is a northeastern suburb of Orlando. So we teach, and it's gonna sound a little weird, but we sort of teach the weirdos. We tend to have a studio of students who are searching for their thing, and they've tried sports, they've tried dance, they've tried other stuff, and it's just not their thing. And so we tend to get those we tend to get those students. We have a lot of neurodivergent students. I have an incredible teacher who works with me for me, and she that's like her superpower, is working with neurodivergent students. And so that has sort of become a specialty, I guess, especially of
Mhm.
hers. And then I specifically teach aspiring pros, and more older high school singers. So I'm not teaching beginner lessons anymore, but we teach voice, piano, guitar, and ukulele. Um, so we have a pretty solid mix of people that come in and out of our studio every week. It's a good time.
Yeah, and you do, I know you do online, but I
hmm
think you also do some at least limited in person based on,
We
the
are
situation changing all the time. But
right. Yes, indeed it is. We're mostly in person right now, um,
Mhm.
for the time being.
Right.
And we had sort of discussed going back to virtual for a short period of
Mhm.
time. And I think probably by the end of this week, we will make a decision on that, because kids went back to school last week with virtually no mask mandates in place. And
Hey,
so,
hey, what's up, Missouri? It's the same thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, oh, look, Haley's actually in the comments section. So, um, congratulations, Haley, you're Instagram famous. Um, so, so we will probably make a decision on that as we see more, if our families start texting us and saying, hey, because we had two families last week that were fully vaccinated and super cautious that
Mm-hmm.
the entire family was sick. So
Yeah.
we were like, oh crap, these are the cautious, like these are the people that we know that have been super cautious this whole time. Um,
Yeah.
so for now we're in person, and part of our sickness policies with the studio is that if you wake up in the morning and anybody in the house feels sick, let us know and we'll do a virtual lesson that day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely one of those thanks COVID moments, because
Yeah.
before it would have just been a canceled lesson. And now we have the option to say, hey, let's just do a virtual lesson today, and we'll still make it a productive use of our time and limit the exposure of your teacher. So,
Right. It just from my perspective, of course, I'm in a totally different situation. I'm a single teacher. I work one-on-one. I don't do a lot of group stuff, and
mm-hmm.
I don't have any. I'm not a multi-teacher studio, but it has been honestly kind of fun is not the right word, but it's been really. I guess I'll just say that it's been fun to watch you adapt to the changing situations, so adeptly. Like you've really have done a great job from my perspective, and just kudos to you because just kind of watching how you've done it and how you've supported your teachers and supported your students has been really fun to watch from my perspective. So I think you're doing
I
a great job.
thank you. I really appreciate that. It's been a long road.
Yeah.
And I think, like it's like last week I sent out a text message to the group text of the teachers to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. Can I get your input? Because I don't want to make unilateral decisions that are going to affect them without getting their input on it as well. Because, um, it's important that they feel honored and valued for their input on things. And so I think, and yeah, I just spent, I want to say $140 on air purifier filters,
Mhm.
because they're expensive.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we have one in each teaching room, and then we have a giant one out in our lobby. And so
Mhm.
I know our lobby's closed right now, so like unless you're a student, you're not allowed in our waiting room.
Mhm.
So I literally took the chairs away. Like, if you want to sit somewhere, you may use your car. So yeah, it's been one of those things where we kind of just said, okay, we have no choice. We have to adapt, and we have to just keep it moving and do what's best for our students. I think, we assumed some personal risk when we decided to come back in the studio in person, but
Mhm.
we also were starting to see the negative impact on some of our students with their
Mhm.
mental health, and
Yeah.
where we know our students very well, and you can tell when the lack of human interaction and the lack of thanks, Jade. um Peanut JD is one of our students. So it was one of those things where we kind of collectively said, we've got some students who are struggling, and if being back in this studio and back in this space that is outside their home, where they have, their safe space here with us, and that helps their mental health, then let's do it. And
Mhm.
that's what we did. And so it's, and I think that helped a lot,
Yeah.
for some of our students.
Yeah. Um, I totally get that too, because um it's a weird balancing act that you have to do, just, and it seems like the goalposts are changing all the time. So,
Mhm.
just have to be very, very nimble. And that can get very tiring. But again, I think just from my perspective, I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
So something else that you have been doing is you have been acting as music director and vocal director for some shows in your area, and I'd love to hear a little bit about what you do. Like, what if you could first, like, just kind of define what is a music director? Like, how is that different from, say, any other director, or how does that role um, differ from what a voice teacher might do in getting students ready for a show?
Gotcha. So, a music director is considered part of the production team for a musical. And you have choreographer, director, stage manager, sometimes assistant stage manager, music director. And depending on the music director and the theater, if they use a live band, the music director not only teaches all of the music to the cast, include harmonies, lead lines, everything of that nature. The music director is also in charge of hiring the band, rehearsing the band, and then playing all the shows.
Mhm.
So I've done it both ways, where I've done shows where I just come in and teach the music and the vocals. And they use tracks for the shows.
Mhm.
And then I've also done the full production of teaching all the music and then running the band. And then sometimes you might have a music director who's not comfortable, um, running a band. So they may
Mhm.
hire someone else different to, do the vocal directing versus. So if you see someone that's a vocal director as part of a musical theater production, they are strictly in charge of teaching the vocals, and
Mhm.
that's it. And so once production starts and they're in shows and tech, they are done. And so a music director then typically goes all the way from auditions and is part of the audition process and the casting process all the way through playing the shows until the end of the run.
Awesome. So if, say, a voice teacher was watching and would be interested in moving from merely, it's not like it's a small job, a voice director to expanding his or her horizons to become a music director, what skills do you think he or she should start developing to make that move?
Um, well, you'll be conducting at a piano. So you'll be playing piano and conducting the band. Um, so having some conducting experience will be absolutely integral, um, essential. And then, the ability to multitask is everything. So it's you have in-ear monitors that have the cast, vocals coming into your ears, and then you've also got the band mix coming into your ears. So you have all of that input happening, but you
Mhm.
also have to, play the piano. You have to make sure that if you've got cutoffs, if you've got tempo changes, you have to conduct all of that into the band. I know when I did American Idiot, that show is a punk rock show,
Mhm.
and so we used click tracks. And so I had my iPad set up next to the piano, and I would hit go, and then if we had to change tempos in the song, I would have to trigger that tempo change and then get the band, so there's a lot of multitasking that happens at that level. And depending on the show, the piano part itself can be quite challenging.
Mhm.
So you also have to have a very high level of musicianship and piano skills.
Mhm. Not to mention, I'm sure just like problem solving on the fly, because I can't imagine that every show goes perfectly.
No, no, I think one time in Rent, and that was the thing that was fun about Rent was it was a high school cast, and you figure the last normal year that kids would have been cast even in a show, and this is assuming that
Hmm.
as a freshman they were cast in a show and had a program that used live a band. They're seniors right now.
Right.
So none of the underclassmen have ever even had the opportunity to do a theatrical production with a live band or a pit orchestra. So this was the very first time that this entire cast of 24 kids was ever doing a show with live musicians. And so it was chaos, but it was also a lot of problem solving of like, look, unless the pit is actually on fire, you don't stop singing.
Hmm.
Under no circumstances do you
Hmm.
stop singing. If I have a brain fart, if I turn 2 pages at the same time, which did happen once, and I have to like turn the page back and then find you and then come back in, you have to keep singing. Under no circumstances do you stop. Under
Hmm.
no circumstances do you look up in that pit and give the audience any indication that there's not supposed to be silence underneath you. Like, so
Right.
that was one of the things that we had to work with them on was, you know, there's a lot of places in Rent where it's just the piano playing, which is absolutely terrifying as the person playing the piano for 90% of that show. And there would be places where something would happen. I would miss an entrance. I would miss a patch change. I would, yeah, I mean, and like I said, I literally turned 2 pages, at one point, and had to turn back and get caught. And so that was probably that was sort of more of the nerve wracking side
Hmm.
of the production, but just letting the kids learn to lead. There are
Hmm.
sometimes, especially in a show like Rent, where there's only one or two people singing, and you don't have to follow me. I will follow you.
Hmm.
You can letting them learn to take artistic um,
Hmm.
leniency, and the band will be there to catch you. The piano player will be there to catch you. That
Hmm.
was a lot of fun. That was a really cool experience too.
Yeah, that from my own experience, even just as a solo singer doing recitals, being able to take charge musically
Mm-hmm.
was kind of a tough lesson for me to learn just because, I had come up through choirs, mostly in high school. And what do? You follow the director. The director is the
Mm-hmm.
benevolent dictator in the room.
Yes.
And so you don't get a lot of input. And so then flipping the script a little bit and being able to take the lead can sometimes be, I mean, some kids just take to it because they love to be in charge. But,
Right.
other kids,
Right.
like myself, that's a tough thing to do. So
It's a
and,
skill.
yeah,
It
it
is a
is a skill.
skill. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And because I had a 4-piece band. And so we were all sort of like, they would read my facial expressions, which at some points was not a great plan because anyone who knows me knows that my face betrays me constantly. And so they would, that it I can understand how, especially, in small band situations, on like Broadway or on tours and things like that, where these musicians are playing with each other several times a week for an extended period of time, they just get so tight that
Hmm.
they just, it's instinctive what's happening next. And
Hmm.
so, um, it is a really fun process to do, and it is a lot of, an enormous amount of work. um
Hmm.
a show like Rent that is 2.5 hours of music,
Yeah.
is an enormous amount of work to learn and to rehearse the band and to get it get it good to go. But it's anybody who's interested in making the jump from vocal director to music director, or just I just jumped in with American Idiot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we did the original auditions for that show in February of 2020. I taught all the music to the cast.
Mm-hmm.
They did one choreography rehearsal, and then lockdown happened.
Yeah.
And so we came back and did that show then in the fall of 2020. But I had never music directed a show, and I just jumped right into a 7-piece band.
Mm-hmm.
And and I would say, my best advice if somebody is looking, to make that jump, is you find yourself a, a you find yourself, I call him my musical whoopee. But my guitar player, he's the guitar
Mm-hmm.
teacher at my studio, but I've known him for years and years, and he's honestly one of the best musicians I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I hired him to be my guitar player for that show. And he was my rock solid person who was like, look, you're new at this, and so this is what we need from you. And because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what I didn't know, right?
Right. Yeah.
I had taken conducting in college like an eon ago.
Right.
and
And they
and
don't teach you that in college.
no, they don't. And oh my God, if they would, holy moly, it would be
Mm-hmm.
so useful. But so he was so and he was my guitar player for Rent too. And so he is not shy about like, okay, we are going to need a bigger motion from you, or we nearly need like a strong cue. And so
Mm-hmm.
he having a partner in the pit with you that can help you learn what you don't know, because it is a
Mm-hmm.
steep learning curve, and it is
Mm-hmm.
amazing, and I 100% recommend it. But having someone who knows you personally, and then is just a like solid musician, is
Mm-hmm. And
also,
safe person.
yes, and it's also really, really, I that's I I owe him a lot of credit for my success as a music director, because of the hours that he spent working with me, outside
Mm-hmm.
of the pit context. So
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I'm getting ready, like when I accepted the new job last night, I had my guitar lesson, and I was like, so we're gonna need to talk about this, because like you're my guy. So I literally,
Mm-hmm.
it's like when Lin-Manuel Miranda says to Chris Jackson, like, if I got a job, you got a job. And so like that's my whole thing is with Aaron. I was like, if I got a job in a pit, you got a job in a pit. Like that's just how we go. So so I think that, that has been a huge component of my ability to jump into this and learn and be successful at it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a big tip that I would give someone.
Yeah, and I would think too, because I've never music directed a show. I think it would be super duper fun and also terrifying, but I think it could be really helpful, as if I were to pursue that, just to kind of get into the performance scene, get to know the people who are out there playing, go to a lot of shows, meet people who are in the pit,
Mm-hmm.
just and do a little bit of networking so that you know who's out there,
Mm-hmm.
who's playing the same stuff over and over, get to know, style wise what people are strong at and things like that. And
Yeah.
maybe even, if you're an instrumentalist, being able to play in a band, so that you can see it from the musician standpoint, could be helpful as well. That's a
Yeah.
little bit of a longer road than just diving right on in like you did.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's that's for sure. And it's because uh I'm a solo singing piano player. That's what I
Right.
do. And
Hmm.
so I don't have before I did American Idiot, I had zero experience playing in a band that wasn't marching on a field. Right. So like so I had so that also was a real learning curve for me. You know, I had to go on the recommendations of other people for like a cello
Mhm.
player and those kinds of things, because I didn't have that network of people, and because I wasn't out performing.
Mhm.
And so and I still don't have a ton of that network, but when you play with people who, you know, like Aaron, for example, Aaron has a huge network of people. So
Mhm.
when I when I made the call to like hire a different drummer for Rent, he was like, "Okay, I'm going to text some people." And it was great that he could do that.
Mhm.
And so you know, it's when you play with people who are out playing, you know, they
Mhm.
again, you can lean on them and you can ask for recommendations. But yes, it's um I definitely, and it's been weird, right? Because I got into this right before COVID. And so
Right.
just the act of going to shows has
Mhm.
been iffy. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
Mhm.
so it's harder to do that sort of networking stuff now, although, you know, in Florida we've been open for a lot longer than the rest of the world, to my chagrin.
Mhm.
So it's out there, but again, you know, I was so wary of going out and
Mhm.
about in the public, that I just didn't want to assume that risk.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think, you know, and again, just knowing a few really solid musicians are
Mhm.
going who will give you access to their network will
Mhm.
help build your own network, so that when you need someone, you can say, "Hey, I'm going to text so and so, and I know they've got people."
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you've mentioned this a little bit, but what are some things or a thing or two that you, as you have been a music director, that has made you a better performer?
Oh man, keep going. Like
Yeah.
and I've had this conversation so much. We, our music programs in this country are geared towards the Western classical music traditions of
Right.
perfection above everything else.
Right.
And perfection doesn't necessarily breed good musicianship. It breeds all
Say that
kinds.
again.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
right. So like per the the impossible quest for perfection in performance is detrimental to actually being a musician.
Hmm.
Like, it's what we are taught in conservatory is not practical for being out in the world, in the wild, as a musician who wants to make
Hmm.
money as a musician, right?
Yeah. Even
And
as a classical musician, it's
yes,
like you can't live that way. It doesn't work.
no. And it causes all kinds of mental and emotional nonsense, right? Like,
Hmm.
we
Yep.
become, I always made the joke of like, well, you know, singers are neurotic. Well, it's like, it's a joke, but it's like, not really. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm. Right.
we,
Exactly.
and so, so, and we break that stigma by, you know, showing up and performing and not being difficult to work with and not being crazy perfectionists. So we,
Hmm.
you know, but we come out of music school with some like built-in neurosis about
Hmm.
perfection. And I think for me, knowing, and Haley can attest to this too, I tell people all the time, I'm going to hit wrong notes at this piano.
Hmm.
I'm going to sing wrong notes. Find me a Broadway show where someone doesn't squawk a note that's just terrible every
Uh-huh.
single show. Ain't going to happen.
Hmm.
It doesn't exist. And so I think, you know, for me as a performer, it has really helped me to understand that A, nobody cares. B, almost nobody's going to notice unless you just really, really like have a stinker, like
Hmm.
fall on the piano and like hit all the wrong notes, or just, you know, it's, nobody cares, nobody notices. And if you, as the performer, make a big deal about it, you will give yourself away. And in the grand scheme of things, it for sure doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't matter. And I think, and so as a performer, that's right. If we all waited until it was perfect, we never get on stage. That's true.
It's
And
true.
I think for me, and it's also trickled into my teaching as well, because I talk to my students about, listen, you're going to sing wrong things. The
Mm-hmm.
wrong word is going to come out of your mouth. You're going to sing a squawker. Like, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep going. If you don't make a big deal about it, ain't nobody else going to make a big deal about it. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
you just keep singing, nobody cares. And I think that, and I say this to my younger teachers as well, because, in my studio, I'm like the boss lady, and I work towards mentoring my younger teachers, because I want them to be better teachers than I was way
Mm-hmm.
earlier, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't have access to older teachers who were willing to teach me the things.
Mm-hmm.
And because our industry is steeped in scarcity mindset, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'll help boss lady, you stop that. But I've tried to tell, that's what I said, what I'd say to my younger teachers is, instill in our students the ability to make a mistake and keep going without it crushing the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And like, as a performer, again, I played this like open mic night thing on Monday night for for musical theater people. So think like live
Mm-hmm.
karaoke, but make it theater, and sight read all of the music on the spot. Um, so terrifying is a word that comes to mind. It was fun, but it's also, and like, it was one of those things where it was the epitome of, unless this piano spontaneously combusts, keep singing, I'm going to hit wrong notes
Mm-hmm.
back. I'm sight reading
Yep.
Sondheim, for God's sake.
Oh my gosh.
Notes will be hit that are not the right note. I need you to just keep going. And it was one of those things. And Haley was sitting in the audience, and she was like, it sounded fine. It was really fine. You were doing a great job. And meanwhile, back there, I was literally like, okay, well, we're going to pick one of the notes in that chord and just go with it. Like, where are the chord symbols? Let's just like hit a bass note. Let's just give them something. You know what I mean? And so I think, as a performer, it has really leveled up my game in terms of just being able to absorb that stress, know that I'm going to make mistakes, accept it, and keep going and be fine. Like, just keep moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you kind of answered it too, but I was also wondering how music directing has made you a better teacher and a business owner.
Yeah, I have a lot more grace with myself,
Mm-hmm.
um, and my students, and I think, part of the mission of our studio is to make performing a fun experience,
Mm-hmm.
because especially for those of us who came out of a classical music degree program, performing was not necessarily a joyful experience. It
Mm-hmm.
was a requirement. And it
Mm-hmm.
was not something that we did because we wanted to have fun with our art.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
we, on the business side of things, the way that, music directing has sort of helped is, when I can talk to people about having, yes, I get nervous at the beginning, but I get used to the nerves. And so the nerves help the performance. And then it helps me get into ultimately being able to have fun, even though I might start each show just terrorized by nerves, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it it helps us talk to our students. It helps me talk to my students about, like, there's nerves, and then there's how to channel it. and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and so, for us, like, now that we're back to being able to do recitals again in person, we if we've had it happen where we've got a singer get up there and they just completely lose the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tears are had, and and our goal always with them is, what will it take for you to get back up there and do your performance? Is it
Mm-hmm.
having your teacher stand next to you and
Mm-hmm.
sing with you? Is it sitting on the piano bench next to me, so that with a microphone in your hand, so that you can physically feel that like somebody's there and has got you? What will it take for, like, how can we support you so that this is not something that taints your performance experience forever?
Right.
And that, I think that that makes a huge difference in the culture of our studio and in the confidence in our performers, because like they know that it's just not that big of a deal if they make a mistake, and they also know that if they completely burn it down and it's a disaster, it's also just not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
there's no, so I think that adaptability, to just know that making mistakes is okay, is really is really a great takeaway for me as an owner, as a mentor, as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
um, because my teachers appreciate that perspective as well, because
Mm-hmm.
they then take it on to their students, um, who I may not work with directly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the trickle down has been prominent and so valuable.
That's fantastic. So valuable too. I wish I had learned that early on in my career too, that especially as a teacher, that I could make mistakes and it really is not that big a deal. I was
Mm-hmm.
so concerned about doing everything right, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but boy, yeah. So you've mentioned a couple shows that you've done. You've done Rent and American Idiot, and forgive me, I forgot the title of the show that you just picked up.
I just picked up Next to Normal.
Okay. So shows like this are different, we could say, than shows like My Fair Lady or South Pacific, or even some, Jason Robert Brown types of stuff. So you seem to really be gravitated to, shows that are, the more rock based and punk and stuff like that. So for teachers who have clients who are interested in shows like that, what do you think they should know as far as preparing their clients well to audition for you for shows like this?
Okay, yes. I will say I was 16 years old when Rent came out, and
Hmm.
it was really like the first Broadway show that I sort of went, "Oh my gosh, this is like this is my stuff. This is what I love. Like this is so cool." And
Hmm.
it was sort of it started that era of the pop rock musical. And so
Hmm.
um I would say to teachers who are working with audition books, you have students who have audition books.
Hmm.
Um, do not ever walk in to an audition for a musical that was 1995 or later with anything golden age.
Hmm.
Um, it's you can and that's a whole different thing, right? Like you can update golden age rep to sound more modern, right? I call that like the
Hmm.
Jesse Mueller effect. um,
Yeah.
right? But when you are preparing for a pop rock audition, you want to make sure that you are, first of all, doing what the theater is asking for, right? they're
Right.
they're going to tell you what they want you to bring in. If they
Hmm.
want, a pop rock song. So like American Idiot is a punk rock musical, so the majority of people auditioned with pop rock songs, right? Because it's a
Hmm.
jukebox musical. So in that situation, I would say anything that shows off your vocal range, right? It's a pop rock show, so you got to be able to show your vocal technique, that you do
Hmm.
have that, pop rock vocal sound that they're going to be looking for. Can you belt? make sure that your cut shows that you can do that, right? But it also needs to show that you have depth as an actor. So you want to pick, you know, story songs, but make it punk rock. You know, and so it's always you know, make sure that you sent them in with a song that is stylistically appropriate. And the other thing I would say is always have a backup, because for whatever reason, if you walk in and they hear something in your voice and they're like, you know, I'd like to, do you have anything else that I could hear? That needs to not completely throw you into a mental internal breakdown, right? Like, you need to make sure that you've got backup songs to walk into that audition with. Do not put all the eggs in one basket, because you know, especially like way back when we did those American Idiot auditions, I asked to hear second cuts because I didn't like whatever they brought in for their first cut was either inappropriate or I could you know, as voice teachers, especially when you have a voice teacher sitting at the musical director's box, we hear different things in voices than non-voice teacher musical directors will. And so if I can hear in your voice that I think you have a different type of potential, but you've picked a song that doesn't showcase that, I'm going to want to hear something else. So I think, you know, making sure that your singers are prepared with at least two pieces that are not the same at all, right? You know, if one is like a power ballad, the other one needs to be like an up tempo kind of, you know, driving rock song. So and then, you know, so that's a jukebox musical audition. If you're just talking about now, so like Next to Normal, you know, Rent is pop rock, but if you're talking about say like, or Jason Robert Brown, anything Bridges in Madison County, stuff like that, you need to bring in rep from the last 25 years. And if it's, you know, like, again, it's about knowing the show that you're auditioning for. So if you're auditioning for something like a Jason Robert Brown show, you need to bring in a folk rock song, right? You don't want to bring in something that's like big and expansive and belty, because that's the wrong style for the show, right? So teachers definitely need to do a little bit of research on the shows that their students are auditioning for, because it's not enough just to say, oh, I need a modern musical theater song. No. Do you need a folk rock song? Do you need is it like, if you're auditioning for Wicked, you wouldn't take a folk rock song in, but you'd need to take in something that was like showy and modern, right? So you know, so I think there's a lot to unwrap in that type of audition situation. And I think, you know, as teachers, again, our students are super spoiled in our studio. So whenever you need music, it's included in your tuition. So we just download it, right? Like the music, like all the teachers have the password to the Music Notes account. They know that if they need it, like, go buy it. Just do the thing and print it, because I don't want anybody walking out of here going, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to sing. No. Here's your music. Like, there you go. And so I think from the teacher perspective, making sure that your student has their music in the right key for their voice. Like I, especially in the world of pop rock, I don't ever want to hear somebody say, well, I can't sing it in the original key. I'm sorry. It comes in 7 keys from Music Notes for a reason. Choose one that fits your singer's voice, and don't give me this nonsense about it's not in the original key. Talk to me about original keys when you actually get booked for the show, right? But do not bother me with that stuff makes me crazy. Like, pick the right key for your singer's voice that's going to showcase all of the good juicy bits that people want to hear in an audition, and send them out with
Mm-hmm.
the correct cut. You know, and don't, you know, like, guide your student through the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the whole original key thing is definitely a holdover from the classical Western thing where you can't change a key of an aria. You so we can have words about that too. But
Yeah.
that's something that we have to unlearn a little bit from our training
Yes.
to get into the more modern pop rock stuff. And I think too it's super important because a lot of there's not a lot of conservatory programs or even smaller colleges that are doing a lot of pop rock shows, as a
Mm-hmm.
part of their curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
That it's becoming more, but not a lot of them yet. So if we have clients who are still wanting to do these shows after they graduate from your program or they move off to whatever, we've got to show them how to prepare themselves for an audition by finding the right key, knowing where to go to get the rep,
Yes.
listening to all kinds of music so that they're inputting, know what's out there, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
That's part
Yes.
of our job as teachers too.
Yeah. And I also will say, you know, one of the main complaints that I have as someone who's done, you know, the audition process of like sitting at the piano is, for the love of all that is good and holy, train your students how to present their book. It,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, the formatting, it needs to
Mm-hmm.
be, don't give me something that was bootleg scanned on Scribed that is smeary, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to go blind reading you might as well do this a cappella, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, or don't come in here with single flip pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Always give your accompanist double-sided pages as they would be in a book, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
clearly mark your music. This is the start, right? Put a star.
Mm-hmm.
This is the end, you know, and I think that's one of those things that people forget is, and how to talk to your accompanist.
Mm-hmm.
When you hand me your music, I making your accompanist guess at your cut in an
Right.
audition is a really terrible plan.
Mm-hmm.
Really bad. It's just really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I need to know what you want from me. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
state your expectations, you're going to get what I give you, and it might not be what you expect, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's those kinds of things, is, you know, how to present your music in a binder, how to talk to the accompanist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you walk in and you hand me your music and you set it down, I want to hear out of your mouth, "Hi, this is my name." I want to hear, "This is my cut. It starts here. It goes to here." If there's a repeat, I want to know where it goes back to. I want to know exactly what is happening. I want to know, do you want a bell tone or do you want to play
Mm-hmm.
in? And if you want to play in, where does the play in start? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, I want to know how fast this song is supposed to go. Because while I know a lot
Mm-hmm.
of songs, if you put something in front of me that I don't know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
cold reading it. And so I need you to say to me, "Hey, this is my song. Here's my cut. Da 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 da." And it goes like this: "I should tell you, I should tell you." From that, the people sitting behind the desk aren't going to be listening, and they're not going to be caring. They're not. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna ruin the surprise.
Right.
And from just a little bit of that, it gives me the tempo of what we're doing, and you know, and I can follow you then. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's somewhere down the line, the audition etiquette has stopped being taught.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think that, you know, when I have a singer who comes in and does the things that I'm expecting them to do, they are automatically sort of raised in my eyes
Right.
because they've got some at least base level training
Hmm.
on how to audition well, which is
Hmm.
also a skill.
Yes, and we can't expect students just to know,
Mm-hmm.
it's because there's a culture in the theater, and then there's a culture in opera, there's a culture in university auditions that we really do have to prepare our clients for so that we don't accidentally hamstring them,
Yeah.
and when they're walking in, because they could be perfectly lovely students with tons and tons of talents, but an etiquette faux pas could really hamper them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, bad auditions have kept more amazing students out of opportunities than anything else.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think, and it's one of those things that even with like my pro students, I say to them, okay, I want you hand me your music, talk to me like I'm your accompanist in the audition, and
Hmm.
I make them
Yes.
come around the piano, sit down their music, and say, hi, I'm Haley. This is my song. My cut starts here, it ends here, and it goes, and it's like dun 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 dun. So,
Hmm.
it's I make them practice that so that it's
Hmm.
just like slating, right? If you're doing all these virtual auditions, you have to get comfortable slating.
Hmm.
And that is something that you have to practice, because otherwise you're going to be like up da, 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 I forgot my name. What song am I singing? What day is it? So
Right.
um
Right.
yeah, expecting students just to know what to do is typical of many teachers. Yeah,
Hmm.
so that's one of those things that we work with them on, and
Hmm.
making sure that um they because uh, it's that's I think when people ask me like, well, what do you do as a teacher, and I'm like, how am I supposed to answer that question,
Right.
and it's pick a topic and then I can answer the question. Like, are you asking me
Hmm.
what are you going to learn from me about auditions? What are you going to learn from me about choosing rep? Like, what are you going to learn from me about technique? I do think that if you have a studio of people who are going out in the world into auditions, that um, we absolutely are in charge of making sure that they have all that information. And it comes from, again,
Hmm.
and trends change, right? Like you were just saying, in the
Right.
world of opera, auditioning is very different than it
Hmm.
is in the world of musical theater.
Hmm.
And 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 trends definitely change as
Hmm.
as the rep changes, and we need to we and it's like, talking to people like me, who I'm maybe not the
Hmm.
most experienced at it, but I definitely have a lot of things to say about it, because from a voice teacher perspective,
Hmm.
when I look at people who are coming into audition for me who have no idea what they're doing, I'm like, who is your voice teacher and where can I find them? Because
Hmm.
I need to have a chat.
Right.
So
Well, that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk with you today, because I think the information that you have is so valuable, and we do need to know this stuff so that we can prepare our students well. Um, and since many of us were not prepared well for stuff like that, we can break that cycle. We can do a better job. So I just wanted to point out that I have my giant Disney mug today in honor of you, because I know you love Disney.
I
I
do.
could practically take a bath in this mug, but
Listen, it is the perfect size mug for whatever caffeinated beverage you need. So that's if they I
yeah. So
yeah, I love it. It's cute.
yeah. So last thing, how can people follow you? How, if they want to, keep up on what's going on with your studio or learn more, where should they go to find you?
Oi, well, this is the studio Instagram account, A Noteworthy Music
Mhm.
Studio. I'm also, if you want to follow like my personal shenanigans, I'm Rebekah Does Life on Instagram. And I'm also on TikTok as Noteworthy Gal, because
Ooh.
I'm not original at all with those things. And that's the, my TikTok is sort of a smattering of cats doing dumb things, and my my music therapy journey, right?
Hmm.
You'll find some odd videos on there of stuff that we had to learn from music therapy class. So, singing Lizzo at the piano was one of the weirder assignments I've ever had, but whatever. So yeah, so there's so my and then I also do like some vocal tips and stuff like that on my TikTok channel as well about like I just did one that sort of addressed singers who have had or are in the process of having COVID, and
Hmm.
just reminding, just like a reminder of like you cannot resume normal singing activities after you've had this virus
Right.
immediately. Like you, that is how vocal injury happens. Just don't do it. So,
Right.
so that was one of the videos that I just put up, and I talk about like for people like why you should take voice lessons, like even if you
Hmm.
so it's my TikTok is just sort of random musings, but it's
Hmm.
back and forth mostly to musical stuff. So, and then we're also on Facebook at A Noteworthy Music Studio, and we have a
You
website.
have a website?
We
Yeah.
do have a noteworthymusicstudio.net, and so you can see pictures of we've got our instructor bios up there, and just little bits about the studio, and my cat just came in to say hi. One of the cats. So, yeah, so that's I'm sort of on most of the
Hmm.
interweb things. So,
Awesome.
yes, that's
Very good. Well, I have had a whole lot of fun talking to you today. So I'm really glad that we could schedule this time because I think what you have to say is really valuable. People can learn from you and learn from your experience. So thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate it. Is there anything else that you want people to know, or anything else that you want to say before we finish up?
um yes. If you are curious about pop rock vocal technique, ask, find a teacher. Like
Mm.
I'm classically trained, but pop rock is my life now. I sing it out in the world and I teach it, and I music direct with it. But you know, it's it's a different, it's literally it's like
Mhm.
if you are a classical ballet person and you want to learn how to sing or you want to learn to dance hip hop, you're like, you go find yourself a hip hop teacher. You don't, because it's a different style and different technique and it's a different muscle skill set. So don't be afraid of it. And
Mhm.
don't, this is the new world. If you're lucky enough that you can live in the classical world and that is all you do, then like more power to you, because you are a unicorn. um
Mhm.
the rest of the time you're gonna need to start learning how to teach pop rock vocals,
Mhm.
because musical theater ain't going backwards. Like
Mhm.
the vocal styles of the golden age are no more. And so
Mhm.
even if your expertise is a specific genre of musical theater, you need to expand. You're going to need to expand your technical skill set
Mhm.
for the new generation of musicals, because even the golden age revivals are not golden age anymore.
Right. The same is true
So
in church music too. Church music
yes.
is leaning so heavily into pop rock,
Oh my gosh.
and has been for the last 20 years. But you can direct a choir, and it could be 50-50, choral technique like you learned in university, and or like a praise choir or whatever. So you really do
Yes.
you need to be a versatile teacher.
Yes, I think, when was it? It might have been like Easter of 2020, right before COVID happened, maybe.
Hmm.
I I sang with a praise band for the very first time in my life, and I
Hmm.
was shocked at the difficulty of that music on the vocalists. I
Yeah.
mean, it was not easy. It was, and I mean, like
Mhm.
I said, I was really shocked about it, and I was like, oh, I'm glad that I have this technique under my belt, because someone who
Mhm.
doesn't would be at risk of injuring themselves every week if they were doing this. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's I think, keeping an eye on trends, and then, you know, finding, I I cannot encourage people deeply enough to ask for help.
Yes.
We
Yes.
we especially voice teachers, for whatever reason, we have been trained in this tradition
Hmm.
of infinite independence,
Hmm.
and you miss out on so much by not asking for help. Like, there is absolutely
Hmm.
no shame to be found in saying, this is not my wheelhouse, and I need to talk to somebody whose wheelhouse it is. Because
Hmm.
not only are you, when you don't ask for help, you're doing your students a disservice, but
Hmm.
you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're turning off the option to learn a new thing. And
Hmm.
so, I that's one of the things that I love about some of the Facebook forums for voice teachers, is
Hmm.
that you can go in and ask for help, and you will get
Hmm.
help, because
Hmm.
those of us who want to move our industry forward are there to say, oh yeah, I got you, here's like 5 songs that'll help, like, see if your student likes any of these. and
Hmm.
and and it saves you time as a teacher,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Because so that's my other thing is, ask for help,
Hmm.
find help, take some lessons with, a teacher who is out of your genre, and just try new things, and um you know remind yourself that we are in a service industry, and our job is to serve our students, not ourselves,
Right.
right?
Like that's my entire business model right now is to be a person that teachers can come to ask for help. Because,
Yes.
like I got a PhD in voice science and pedagogy. Like I know a lot of stuff. And if I don't know it, I know where to go look. So
Right.
I can save teachers a ton of time and be a source, of help with no shame, because if you're scared to because we've all seen the pile on that happens in forums sometimes. If you admit to not knowing some things, there's some just big meanies out there that are stupid. So like, yeah, come ask me. I can help you or I can point you in the right direction. So like
Yes.
I'm totally there for that because yeah, it makes such a difference when you don't have to be afraid to ask for help and you know where to go for the help.
Yes. And yeah, and like, again, I say with my younger teachers, um, if ask someone, if you here's my other thing, like, my teachers, that if I'm in the studio and they're not busy, they'll come in and just sit and observe lessons.
Hmm.
And that's my other thing is, if you don't have a teacher around you who teaches in a different genre, but they would let you, like, just be a fly on the wall on Zoom for one of their
Hmm.
lessons,
Oh my gosh,
that's
so helpful.
yeah, I mean, that's you can learn so much just by observing other people's lessons.
Hmm.
Even, and if you take a couple of the tips that you hear in that lesson and then go home and try to apply it yourself, you
Hmm.
know, you're you're still going to benefit from it. And so I think, that's maybe one of the positive things that has come out of this pandemic, is that we are more open, generally speaking,
Hmm.
to learning online.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it has opened up more channels for people to say, hey, you're halfway across the country, but I want to learn this technique. Can you teach me?
Hmm.
100%. Yes. Like, I just watched Eden's live last night on this
Hmm.
new low latency stuff that they're working on. That is just so cool. I mean,
Hmm.
the lag time was negligible, and
Hmm.
one person is playing piano in another state and the other person is singing with them together. So I think that's something that has come out of this pandemic, is that we are more
Hmm.
open to learning differently. We are more open to sharing our information
Hmm.
differently. and
Yeah.
and I think that is really the path forward for our industry, which has suffered just some incredible uncertainty
Hmm.
through all of this. And I think if we just keep helping each other and asking for help from each other, that's the way that we're gonna sort of find a new generation and a new era of voice teaching.
Totally agree. Couldn't have said that better myself. So, Rebekah, again, thank you so much for your time. I want
Thanks for
to
having
honor your
me.
time. Yeah, this is so much fun. We should do it again sometime. All
Absolutely.
right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon,
You
and
too.
thank you everybody for watching. And we'll see you around on the interwebs.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.